So Anthropic just launched Claude for small business plugins, and it's designed to help small business owners take full advantage of Claude in their day-to-day operations, without the technical knowledge requirements and completely no code. It is one of the easiest and most powerful ways to make use of AI to automate operations like accounting, design, marketing, sales, and many more. By the end of this video, you'll know how to set up Claude for small business on your computer, master the various concepts of Claude Cowork, and be able to start using it for your business right away, and not just as a cool demo. I'm going to cover at least 2 different use cases for small business today: marketing campaign automation and sales outreach automation. And if you want to go a bit further and add social media creation, you can check out my other video which I've made, because that takes a few more steps. First off, what's Claude for small business? Well, it's actually not a new product from what Claude already has, which is Cowork and Desktop. It's simply a bundled plugin or a package of skills and connectors that small business will find useful when using Claude Cowork. And if you're completely new to the concept of skills and connectors, don't worry, I'll cover that in simple terms when we're setting it up. Real quick, if you find videos like these useful, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. It really does help a lot. For those who are completely new to the suite of Claude products, here's a quick breakdown. You've got Claude Chat, Claude Cowork, and Claude Code. And maybe not so importantly, Claude Design. Claude Chat is Claude in its most simplest form, which is just a chat interface that you can chat with when you type in www.claude.com. This is the equivalent of ChatGPT interface. Claude Cowork. While chatting with Claude is great, it's not very useful because Claude can't actually do any work or the task that you assigned it to. This is where Claude took it up a notch with Claude Cowork. Instead of just chatting with you, it's able to access tools and create multi-step actions to achieve high-level goals. So for example, if you're a contractor or a real estate agent, you can connect it to your calendar, emails, Canva, and you can technically ask it to do something like this: prep me for my upcoming client meetings today with a brief, and put together a personalized PowerPoint for them. Cowork will figure out what it needs to check your client meetings by invoking Google Calendar, find out who you're meeting, do a LinkedIn or web search on the client, generate an internal client brief for you, and lastly, use Canva to generate presentation deck. The best thing, you can schedule this to run on schedule every morning on Cowork. That's not all. Memory of this task, which is your preference, what you want to say on your brief, and whether you want it to be presented a certain way, will be persistent on Claude Cowork project. Claude Code. It is essentially running on the same backbone, but instead of chatting with you, it actually codes for you. It lives in your terminal. You point it at your code base, describe what you want in English, and it writes, refactors, debugs, and code across multiple files. Not super relevant for most small business owners, but if you ever want to build something and are relatively comfortable with working in a terminal, it might be pretty interesting to check out. Number 4, Claude Design. Claude Design is Anthropic's newest product, basically a designer that sits right next to Cowork. I'm mentioning here because it could actually work step by step beautifully with Cowork to generate brands, PowerPoint decks, Canva, PDF, HTML. I won't go too deep into it here because I've done a previous video and I'll link it up here and down in the description below. Now, Claude for small business is basically a Claude Cowork setup with the pre-bundled plugins. In order to get started, you first need to download Claude Desktop. Now, what is the difference between Claude Desktop and just going straight to the Claude website on your browser? Claude Desktop is a local app that lives in your computer and stores the context, memory, and files in your local system that you own instead of the cloud. Cowork only runs on Claude Desktop, so this is a hard requirement. So if you don't already have Claude Desktop downloaded, go over to claude.com/download. I'll link it in the description below as well, and essentially download it to whatever system that you're currently using. And the second thing that you need is you need at least a pro subscription to Claude AI. So Claude Cowork is now available in the free tier, so you need to subscribe to the pro plan. It's about $20 per month in my region. It's definitely well worth the price in my opinion, but you can try it out for a month and see how you feel about it as you go. And if it doesn't help your business after the first month, you can always unsubscribe, right? So go ahead and download Claude Desktop and subscribe to the pro plan, and then you can get going with the setup. So once you have Claude Desktop downloaded, open it up as an app within your system and not just from the browser, and you'll see that it'll pop up as a separate app, and it will look something like this. And notice that on your left-hand panel, you have chat, you have Cowork, and you have code, right? The difference of which we have gone through earlier. Now, what you want to do is, the first thing, go over and toggle over to Cowork. This is to actually customize and connect your small business plugins into your Claude Desktop instance. So here on the left-hand panel, you want to go over to Customize. So inside Customize, you'll see on the left-hand side panel that you have skills, connectors, and personal plugins. Now, don't worry, under your personal plugins, it's probably be empty right now. I just have some plugins over here already. So what you want to do first is to hit the plus sign on the personal plugins. And here you want to hit Browse Plugins. Okay. So plugins, again, it is just a bundle of connectors and skills. So what you want to do is type in small, and small business plugins will just appear right here. And what you can do is click into it and it'll tell you what it's about, pre-built small business workflows, and what you want to do is just hit install, right? And it's as easy as that. Now, again, I've mentioned the words skills and connectors, right? So skills is basically just a recipe book on how you want AI to do certain tasks. So just imagine the task like, maybe cooking a plate of carbonara, right? So there's a certain way that you want your carbonara to be cooked. So basically skills is just a recipe, you telling the AI that you want the carbonara to be cooked a certain way, certain amount of salt, certain amount of pasta, certain amount of eggs, stuff like that, right? Essentially, that's what skill is what's your preference, is how you want it to do. And it also helps the AI because it now doesn't have to look into how to actually do this thing from scratch, right? Because you already have this pre-existing knowledge of how to cook a plate of carbonara. Of course, carbonara is an analogy for tasks. If you wanted to, let's say, go into QuickBooks and give me the last 30 days of payrolls, business expenses, and stuff like that. So instead of figuring out how QuickBooks works, how the infrastructure works, how the architecture works, what's payroll, what's business expense, it would just go into the skill, which is the recipe, to understand how to do that particular task. So that's skills. And then connectors is just basically the bridge between your Claude Desktop and the tools that you can use. So for example, if you wanted to do certain tasks in QuickBooks or HubSpot, you need to connect it to QuickBooks and HubSpot. So that's basically it. That's connectors and skills. And plugins is just a bundle of this, which Anthropic has put together and call it a small business plugin. So when you download the plugin, what you're downloading is actually the pre-selected connectors and pre-selected skills as what's been shown here, right? Okay, so now that we have all that installed, what you want to do is to head back to skills and connectors, and you probably want to start connecting it to a few things. So one, Gmail, if you want it to be able to look into your emails. Google Calendar is a popular one. Of course, the example that I cited earlier, which, you could go through your calendar, check your meetings, look into who you're meeting with. You definitely need to connect the Google Calendar with that. And the way you would connect it is super easy. Once you click plus, it's going to open up, this pop-up in your browser. And what you want to do is just sign into your Google and approve, and you'll be able to have it connect to your calendar, and you'll be able to see what you have upcoming and be able to plan it for you. And that's one way to, kind of scroll through all these connectors and connect any tools that you find will be useful for a small business. But in particular, when we're referencing just the plugins, you want to go out of this directory and again, on the left-hand sidebar here, go into small business. And you see that there's these skills that have been pre-downloaded or pre-installed, again, because it's part of the bundle that comes under small business, and you have connectors as well. And here you can see that a lot of connectors are not actually connected yet, right? So that's really the second step that you're going to take, which is install, if you have QuickBooks running, you want to install that with your QuickBooks. I already have connected it with my HubSpot and Canva. And again, when we say install, it's a super easy connect, right? So when you hit install, what happens is it's going to pop up a browser again and ask for authentication, and you just sign in, right? Especially if you're using Google Sign In, that's super simple. Okay, so now that assuming you've installed the connections that you want, I'm just going to quickly show you. As you can see, I have HubSpot and Canva already connected here, but just with those two, I'm going to ask it to create some email campaigns for me, email marketing campaigns, which I want to automate basically, right? In the past, maybe you have somebody who was in charge of emailing, coming up with the graphics, coming up with the content, the idea, etc. And I just want to automate the whole thing and basically run the email campaign through HubSpot, right? So the way I would do that is I would go back to my Cowork instance of Windows here. And here, there are a couple of things, just want to go through this, right? So you have projects and you have schedule, you have live artifacts, dispatch, and customize. We already know what customize is. Projects is basically where all of the context to that particular project live. Like for example, if you have a business called ABC on Business, right? And you want to run email campaigns, you want this project to just be about email campaigning. And the memories and the context that are important to that project is essentially how you want your emails to sound like, what are the typical CTAs in terms of graphic, what does the brand color look like, etc., etc. Now, all that should be under one project. So for example, I can create a new project, and here I can say start from scratch, and this is ABC email marketing campaign, and you can tell it instructions, etc. And if you already have some files or previous reference points of the emails that you've sent and you want it to sound exactly the same way, you can drop it into here and it will essentially be able to refer to that, right? So we're going to hit create here, and you'll see that under context on your right hand side here, this actually lives in your computer, right? So the memory And right now there's nothing. As you go along, it's going to create folders, it's going to create directories. And of course, there's a good way, best practice way to do this, how to structure the directories, how to architect it such that it is most efficient, but not going to get into the weeds here today. But just want to let you know that all the memories and context that you're giving it actually lives in your local system. So you're not actually putting it on the cloud, right? One thing is you can add instructions here, right? So you can tell it, what this project's about email marketing campaign, etc. You don't have to right off the bat, but if you want to, you can. So here I'm just going to ask, I want you to create 3 email marketing campaign banner for ABC, a real estate agent in Singapore. And so I'm just going to say this is a fictitious real estate agent because I don't want it to go into the internet and try to find ABC, a real estate agent, which does not exist. The campaign banner should be high impact with CTA to meet with the agent, use Canva to create the design, share it before sequencing it on HubSpot. So this is a pretty bad prompt because I'm giving it no context as to the company, as to the target market, and as to how the brand or messaging or the angle that it needs to take. Not to mention that on Canva, what is the brand design? How does it look? What is the color? I didn't give it any of that, but I'm just going to hit enter and let's see what it comes up with, right? And of course, you don't have to use Canva for this. Again, one other way to do this is to actually tell it to come up with 3 ideas or 3 content outlines of what the email banner would look like, right? Together with text maybe. And what you want to do is just to take the content of the email, if you already like the content, and take it over to Claude Design. And again, if you're not familiar with Claude Design, I did a previous video that you can check out. And basically take those content and paste it into Claude Design, and it will be able to do a good job designing these emails as well, right? So, all right, so it's asking me some questions. What segment of Singapore real estate does ABC focus on? Let's say luxury condos, was a narrative, awareness, value, CTA, okay, book free consultation. Wow, okay, see, it's asking me for at least some directions in terms of the design, right? So that's to detail cream color. All right, so it's doing all of that and it's accessing a Canva for it to be able to do that. Again, if you want to connect it to Canva, what you want to do is essentially just hit install earlier and it will just pop up in your web browser to your Canva, right? So if you're already logged into Canva on your browser, it would just have a pop-up and you just have to authorize. Yep, so it's using Canva and generating the design. And again, this all happens straight from your Claude Desktop. So it's asking me for a lot of information on directions, which is great. So it's coming up with a few templates on how that might look like. So email 1 generated with 4 candidates, then I'll generate email 2, the same aesthetic family, awareness better candidates, option 1. So I can actually, so for example, see, it's giving me the options here, and these are actually generated inside Canva, right? So if I hit open link, what happens is I can actually see what is generated on Canva. But of course, okay, let's come back to here. Which email should I use? Option 1. All right, let's choose option A, right? The one that we just saw. I have not even checked out, B2D, but let's just go with option A. So it's asking me for a lot of directional information, which is great, just to be sure that it's going down the right path, right? So it's asking me for a bunch of decisions in terms of design again. But what I want to direct our attention to is the progress bar over here on the top right hand side. As you can see, I forgot to mention earlier, the moment you give it a task, it is actually going to break it down, at least in Cowork, it's going to break it down into steps of how it's going or deciding to accomplish that task, right? So breaking it down in small digestible steps. So it will go through these steps so that, you kind of have an idea of what the progress is and if it's going into, again, the right direction, right? And as it's going through that, it's also building up memories within the project. So it's going to have context memories that is going to essentially populate inside the project memory. So the next time you come back to this project, it's going to remember that, hey, the last time he actually preferred this particular option, this particular color, this particular style. So you don't have to keep telling it something new. Of course, if you want it to change, then tell it that, I prefer this now. And it will again remember that, right? So the way to interact with it, in my experience, is to engage it like you would a new intern in your company, right? So a brilliant new intern, but it doesn't know a lot, doesn't know your preference, doesn't know how things work. So you need to just tell it. So when it makes mistake and expect it to make mistake, right? What you want to do is you would like any employee, correct it, tell it what to do, and it will be able to improve from there. Okay, so it looks like it's created a couple of email templates here, which, we might want to go in and look at. Let's take a look at what it's come up with, right? So it's come up with this email banner, which is not very good. There are no images, right? So let's look at the first one actually. And I believe it's not putting in, yeah, there we go. So this is better, but it's again not putting in any images right now because it was not sure if I wanted to generate its own images or it wants to use something that you already have, right? So a lot of times AI might get ahead of itself and create fictitious images and put it in your banner, which in this case, Claude is not doing, which is great because most of the real businesses out there, you already have your photos, you already have your business images that you want to use, right? And you want to use those instead of just, random AI generated images because people can't tell, right? And especially if you're selling a house, you might want to show the particular unit that you're selling, right? So this is the same, discover your dream property, da da da. Okay, cool. So that's the, marketing design, etc. Of course, at the end of it, it's asking me whether we want to tweak it before it's pushing it to HubSpot, whether anything that needs to be tweaked. Of course, I'm not going to push it to HubSpot, but if you were to push it past HubSpot, what will happen is it's going to create a sequence or a marketing campaign depending on the number of emails, etc. So it's going to be able to know how to do that automatically and be able to create it, share the link with you. And of course, the first few times you're going to want to go into the link and make sure everything's okay, if it's sending into the right audience, etc. And we're not going to do a deep dive on HubSpot on this session because it's going to make the video way too long. But yeah, let me know if you guys would like to have that because I'm also not sure how many people are actually using HubSpot as a CRM. Okay, so the second use case that we have is the sales outreach. So again, I've created a project, a blank new slate project called ABC Sales Outreach, right? So here I wanted to say, I want you to find 10 prospects, contacts of ABC, a marketing agency in Austin, Texas, fictitious, that focuses on AI automation. ICPs are typically small physical businesses, use Apollo for search and enrichment before sequencing it out on Lemlist is the outbound sequencing that we're using. But actually you can use that or you can use Apollo as the sequencer also, right? Okay, maybe not use Lemlist here. Let's use HubSpot again because we already have HubSpot connected. So we're gonna hit send on that. So, all right, so before I kick off the Apollo search, I need to narrow down a couple things so we don't waste credits pulling the wrong context. So great, okay, so it's asking me which small business I should target. Let's say health and wellness. Where should I prospect? Oh, Austin Metro. Which decision maker titles? I only want to talk to the owner, founder. Should I push these contacts into HubSpot first today? Just deliver an enriched list. All right, let's deliver the list first before pushing it. I don't want it automatically kickstarting and outreach for a fictitious company, right? So Apollo, if you guys are not familiar with it, this is one of the data enrichment platform that you can use. Again, you can use any other tools, right? So Apollo just happens to be the one that I'm using. But if you're new to even data enrichment, so basically it's a platform that has a congregation of this information and data about people, about contacts, their emails, their phone numbers. So what problem does it solve? Well, it solves the problem of prospecting, right? Because if you're prospecting, for example, to small businesses and you don't know who the owners are, but you don't know their emails, phone numbers, how are you going to reach out to them, right? So this is the problem that Apollo is solving. It's finding out the number of small business founders that are in the Texas Austin area, for this example, and finding out what their emails are, their phone numbers are, so that I can run some outreach to them, right? It's asking me for some permission on Apollo to use the People API search. So I'm going to hit approve on that. So, you're going to get a lot of approval steps as you're using it, especially the first time. And you just want to hit approve on that and let it do its thing. So great, it's actually coming back with the 10 prospect candidates, in the Texas Austin area. And these are owners and company names and the verticals and industries that they're in. And there's some of the, contact details later on that it's going to pull. But I'm blurring this out because these are obviously personal details, personal contacts, and I don't want to expose it to the internet. Essentially, what I'm trying to show is it's able to use Apollo and any other tools to enrich the leads, find the leads, and be able to do prospecting on your behalf, right? So you go one step further into this is, of course, ask it to draft emails, contents, which it can do very well. Again, in the same way that we did with the marketing campaigns, tell it how you want the email to sound like before actually pushing it into HubSpot or any other emailing tool that you're using to actually outreach to these guys. And if you want a full rundown of a B2B sales outreach, I did another video which did a comprehensive rundown again, because these are multi-steps and I don't want to keep the video too long. If you really want to go into that particular use case, check out that video. I'll link it up here and down in the description below. So yeah, that's it. That's a quick rundown on what Claude for Small Business is. And again, this might not be a new product from Anthropic. It's more of a bundle of existing stuff with the connectors and the skills and calling it something that is friendlier for non-technical folks. I personally think it is a great step for you to take if you're a small business owner and you don't really have the time to really deep dive into the very technical stuff, but you not want to be able to leverage AI in the best way possible, in the simplest way possible. Claude for small business is really kind of the best way to go. Well, anyway, if you find that valuable, please hit that like button and consider subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.